Good afternoon, Outposters. Happy to see you. Those of you watching, I know this is just getting started on a live chat. I just posted the link. I am doing this publicly, so I'll be reading comments, but I won't be displaying them, as I know you guys want to throw out some weird stuff out there. You can chat within the chat window on YouTube. And I am going to start discussing a little bit of Picard. So, welcome. Glad you're here. I keep looking because I have monitors on both sides. So, I need to keep an eye on different things here. And I apologize for that because I prefer to look straight into your eyes. It's not creepy, I swear. It's not creepy at all. Anyway. So I happen to have the day off today. Thank God. So I was able to I thought we'd have this good Picard discussion. And I've taken some notes, and I was going to do a full-on video of what was going on. I was going to do the ins and outs and produce it all up and that sort of thing. And I just went, you know what? This damn thing ain't worth my time. I couldn't muster the energy to put that much effort into a nicely produced video. So I decided instead to simply just start talking about it and going through what I thought about it. And I do have some ideas of how you can fix it. But I'll read some of the script that I wrote, and I'll kind of interject from time to time. And then once we get done, and I've gone through all my parts, if you guys would like to join in on the discussion, as Pops did the other day, feel free. I have a Skype running, and it's not up at the moment. It will be up later. It's a Rationalist Yoda, and I can bring you up, and we can have discussions. And if we have more than one, we can bring them all together. So. You might hit me up, type there directly. We'll do like an intermission, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. Because I'm just, this is all still a work in progress, and I appreciate all you guys coming on to Last Movie Outpost. Put a lot of work into the site. I know a lot of you are here for the shit postings and giggles, and that's all perfectly good. But we do have some guys that are putting a lot of effort into trying to put out stories and keep things going. And now with COVID and Corona working at us, we don't have a lot of stories coming out. Obviously all the big movies are getting pushed off until maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas, and there's just not a lot to talk about right now. So we'll do our best to discuss what we can, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And I will be posting this stream at the end in a regular story, and you guys can watch later and we can discuss. So that being said, let's talk about Picard. How did it go so wrong? Alex Kurtzman would be the obvious answer, but there's a lot more going on. I know Michael Chabon, who was the writer, basically came out and said, "I hope I piss people off," meaning the rank and file guys that have always loved Star Trek, what he calls toxic fandom. Well, the final 2 episodes of Picard have finished, and as much as I despise the show as it went along, I kind of got jaded. I just kept rolling my eyes at the stupid political garbage and the inconsistent storytelling and the lazy screenwriting. And yet, I still was kind of surprised at the end. Now, this is kind of like if you were in a dentist chair for several hours getting a lot of work done, enduring the drill, the constant Novocaine, the impending bill is coming, and then suddenly the dentist jumps into the room and unloads a shotgun in your face. That's what the surprise was. I didn't say it was a good surprise. It sucked, but that's what Picard was. Excuse me. So, Picard not only tortures you for 8 episodes by destroying the ideals of the Federation and turning the logical and emotionless heterosexual 7 and 9 into a hard-drinking, angry, murdering lesbian, and making a Picard a bit player, beta male in his show. They wrap it all up by killing Picard, then copying his brain and putting it into a copy of his own 90-year-old body, minus the little time bomb in his brain that killed him, an android body. So this is where I could hear the critical drinker going, what the fuck? So in the last 2 episodes, Picard and the Scooby Gang take their mystery mobile ship to the land of Soji, where they find out that there's a whole bunch of androids there in tubes. And some of them have gold skin, and some of them have the yellow eyes like Data did. And some look perfectly like normal human beings. And there in the middle of it all, because Brent Spiner needs a paycheck, is Dr. Alton Soong. So Noonien had a kid. Now, I don't know if you remember, but in Star Trek The Next Generation, when Data and Lore met Soong, and Data had stolen the ship, and then he told them the reason why he created them, or at least he told Data this, the reason why he created Data was very much the similar reason that people had children. And it was very much implied that he didn't have children, that Data and Lore were his children. Well, fuck that. Because Brent Spiner needs a paycheck. Now, I suppose you could say he never said he didn't have children, or that he came out and said, Data, I had you because it's like having children. He didn't, really say it, so I guess the writers have it out. But it's cheap. I mean, this was back in the days when you didn't have to spell everything out for the audience, you know? We didn't realize dummies like Kurtzman would be watching to look for any technicality to latch on and exploit either. So I don't know. Oh God, this fucking show. So I'm gonna put this up because it's not really necessary right now. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me get through the story here. Picard arrives, followed closely by Soji's ex-Romulan boyfriend turned evil because he somehow figured out when Soji saw the 2 moons in the sky what planet it was, even though I seems kind of vague to me, but okay. And then they go through, but he recognizes the system, but they go through a transwarp conduit to get there. So I don't know how he knew the transwarp conduit was there, and he couldn't follow the crew anymore because the Agnes had taken out the tracker in her body, and they didn't even know they were going themselves until at the very last second. So the whole thing is kind of glossed over by a line of dialogue, but it doesn't make any sense. So then the Borg cube shows up because how did they know? And again, there's a line of dialogue where 7 and 9 said, well, when I was attached to the cube, I could see everything. And so then I knew where the thing was, and I figured out where you were going. Wasn't she busy kind of freaking out about all the Borgs that were blown out into space? So then they all get there. Okay, so are the Borg friendly or evil? We don't know. Why are the Borg there? We don't know. Then, I swear to God this happens. Giant orchids come up from the sky and envelop the ships and pull them down and crash them to the ground. Even the Borg takes 3 flowers to do it because it's so big. The other ships get pulled down by the flowers. And the ship is fine except for its power is broken. So they go over and they check on the Borg ship to see if anybody's left alive, which is very unlikely. So, of course, everybody's left alive. And they see Jerry Ryan, and she gets her minimum needed lines to get a paycheck and then does absolutely nothing else for the rest of the show. I have no idea why the Borg are there. They have no purpose there to be there other than to be, hey, you remember the Borg? They're in the final episode. I so then, now that they found that everybody's okay, and Romulan Legolas is okay, they go and to where Soji is drawn to, I guess. And then suddenly Soji seems to remember everything. And I don't know, I don't understand why she was sent out. They didn't really say that. They sent out Soji and Daj. Apparently, you make these you have to make the androids in pairs, and they did it all with one neuron of data, which is kind of like taking scraping some paint off of a Buick and using that to make a whole nother Buick. That's apparently how this works now. So you've got. I'm having problems keeping it together here. I apologize, but it's just so weird. I don't understand what they're trying to do. So, why did the send out Daj and Soji with no memory of who they are? Was this Maddox doing something to see how they would integrate with humans? Or did they want to spy on them and see if they were a danger? Because the Federation put up the synth ban. But what good is it if they want to be a spy? What is it good? Is it to make them like normal people? Because they clearly didn't know where they were, and they were surprised when they showed up. So it wasn't like they were monitoring them like Geordi's visor or something. And then they would contact their mom, and we don't know who this person was. Why did Daj know Picard? I guess it was because of a random memory of Data. But they were all sort of cloned from Data, but they don't seem to be Data. It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, why is this happening? Well, there's so many questions here, and I'm just getting started. I wish this was nighttime because I could be drinking something stronger than Kool-Aid, but oh well. I got my vase cup, so you're happy. Okay. I haven't seen anybody chatting on here. Is everybody on okay? Please throw something up in the chat if you are seeing me or if you are watching. I see that there's 7 concurrent viewers, but I want to make sure that everything's coming through okay. Let me make sure that this video is coming up. It seems to be. It says nope. It says it's fine. So that's me. Sorry about that. Haven't seen it, but it sounds so bad. It's good. No, it's just bad, although it's just bad. So when they get there, they find another Soji, but she's gold, like Data. And she talks to Agnes. And she says, well, why are you guys here? And Agnes says, and why did you kill Maddox? And she says, well, this Commodore, this Romulan Commodore O, who's a Romulan Vulcan spy, mind melded with Agnes and gave her all this information, and it freaked her out, and that's why she killed Maddox, because she feels like, oh wow, the end of the world, the end of everything is coming if I don't stop this. So Soji then says, well, let me see what you saw, and she mind melds with Agnes. A skill she picked up because she studied Vulcan philosophy and I guess graduated at the top of her class. That's right. Mind melding isn't a biological skill that Vulcans possess. Anyone can do it if they just hit the books. I swear to God, I'm going to get to this, but I think there's a trans message going on here. Believe it or not. Your biology doesn't define you if you just will it. Do you remember back in the Omega Glory when Kirk was trapped with those? It was the one where they had the Calms and the Yangs, and Kirk started reading the Constitution to them at the end. But it was he kept getting attacked by the 2 Yangs he was put in there with, and finally Spock reached in and gave the guy a Vulcan nerve pinch. And Kirk says, I wish you could teach me that. And Spock was like, I have tried, Captain. If they couldn't teach him that, if they couldn't teach something like a Vulcan nerve pinch, are you telling me that you could just learn mind melding? I need more rum. So, Golden Soji learns that the destroyer is is something that happens by contacting this far off machine world, or perhaps in another dimension. It's not really clear. You'll be hearing me say that a lot. It's not really clear. That will rid all the synths of all those pesky bags of mostly water before they kill all the robots, the androids. They decide, yeah, that's a good idea. So original Soji, the one we've been with, seems to be just fine with it. And Alton Soong is apparently working on a new body for himself. So, yeah, he's good with it. And we're just going to wipe out all of biological life. Seems rational. So then you go, okay, wait a minute. Are the Romulans the bad guys? Or were they right? Is Agnes, who she murdered Bruce Maddox earlier. Now you go, well, wait a minute. Maybe she was right. I mean, who am I supposed to be rooting against here? Who am I supposed to be rooting for here? Picard is just kind of bouncing back and forth from one side to the other. He's not taking any real action yet. And everybody is doing, one thing, or are the Borg bad or the Borg good? Are the Romulans good or the Romulans bad? Are the synths good or the synths bad? I don't know. Nobody knows. The writers sure as hell don't know. So Soji doesn't take into account anything that Riker or Picard or Troy or their daughter did. She just needs to get the plot going here. She doesn't think about any of that. She's like, oh yeah, good idea. Let's wipe them all out. It's like you just had this connection a few episodes ago where you met Riker and Troy's daughter, and you kind of had this thing with them, and you seem to be, I mean, Picard has certainly been trying with you, and you're just, we'll just wipe them all out. So then in part 2, the Romulan and the Federation fleet come, and they have a standoff where they do a ton of just cut and paste, ships. They all look exactly the same. All the Federation ships look exactly the same. And I get it. I mean, it's a TV budget, but I feel like, man, they did a lot more on like Deep Space Nine and even Next Gen. I think they put more effort into this kind of thing. So, I mean, it just felt cheap. Anyway, they have a standoff. And then, well, Picard does what he can to buy time, but it's really the Federation that comes to their senses. So Soji turns off the machine, and the synths are allowed to live in peace, and the ban is lifted. I mean, that's in general what happens. Well, then Picard's brain explodes, and he dies. Now, I remember them talking about these. I remember them talking about these damn what do you call it? Ironic syndrome. And it was like space Alzheimer's. That's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be space Alzheimer's. And so I didn't get the feeling. I mean, they even said in there, it's like I could have a long life, even after the symptoms appear. It wasn't like it wasn't a time bomb getting ready to detonate. But that's exactly what it was. It was a time bomb that detonated in his skull, and then he died. There was no, and so they took him, and they put him in this quantum. They copied his brain pattern somehow because he died on the ship, and then so they went ahead and take him all the way down. Maybe they put him in stasis. I don't know. Took him all the way down. They copied his brain patterns. He wakes up, and he's in this room with a fireplace with Data. And Data says, yeah, no, this isn't a dream. You're in a quantum simulation, and I've been here for a while. And basically, kill me. That's what he asked for. He says, kill me. And they have a moment, and Picard says that he loves him. And so I guess Picard is gay now. And then after they take him out of the quantum realm, and they put him in a new android body. So now he's gay, and he's transitioned because biological reality doesn't matter. You could just be put in an android body. Is he really Picard now? I don't know. I mean, I know they did that once with that one guy that pretended he was Data's grandpa, and he got into Data's body and took it over. But I know there's precedent for some of this, but it just comes off so weird the way they do it. And then we see Rafi, who I haven't talked much about because she hasn't done much, and 7 and 9 having a moment because they're lesbian now. It's almost as like Hollywood thinks that normal heterosexual sex or relationships are something weird and icky, because they had one moment where Raffi says to Picard, I've always loved you, JL, and I just hate that she calls him JL, but fine. And he says, do I have to say it back? He's all uncomfortable, and she's like, no, and he goes, I love you too, Raffi. And it's the most platonic, weird, awkward thing. Like they're saying it because they're friends, but it's weird because you're a girl and I'm a guy, and those two don't hook up. That's just weird. It really felt like that. And then him going into this body, it felt like he was being, like it was a trans thing. And now he's gay for Data. And Chabon has said, the guy who wrote this has said, I want to make this anger fans. Well, mission accomplished. Did you actually accomplish anything with artistic merit? Did you actually accomplish anything that people want to watch? Is this something people are going to be remembering for years to come? Or is it going to be the Phantom Menace of Star Trek? Which I think it will be. In fact, I think it's even worse than that. The Phantom Menace was just bad. But it wasn't like political drivel and shoving your weird social justice cult mentality. I mean, who is Hollywood making this shit for anymore? And just forget about Picard for a second. Who are they making it for? It appears to be the only people they're making it for is their own weird cult cocktail party Twitterati. And like, they don't realize that there's this bubble that's getting smaller and smaller because more and more people are falling out of it. And they're the only ones that they seem to give a damn about. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish. I don't know how they could possibly make any money off of this, because they're going to have a season 2. And other than if I have to watch it for this site, which I will, if it's for my job so that you guys don't have to. But if I wasn't doing this, I don't know that I'd watch it. I don't know why I would watch it. And I don't understand what they think they're accomplishing anymore. We've got Marvel making the SJW Eternals, that they actually call them Snowflake and Safe Space, and it to universal downvotes. And Marvel Comics may be going out of business. In fact, the comic industry, thanks to COVID, and because the comic industry is having a lot of problems in general, but now that the stores are shut down because these independent stores, they can't work, they can't sell anything anymore because they're not considered essential. I don't think they're going to. I don't think comics are going to make it. And by making these weirdo stories, I don't think they know what they're doing. So I think it's all going to go under. And there's going to be no real entertainment except for the ancient archives of the 80s, or you know what I mean. The stuff that we used to watch in the past, that's the only thing anybody's going to watch. And why they thought that this was good. How to fix this show. That was the other thing I want to get into, and I'll try. To be honest with you, the ending was so terrible. So, like I said, it was the shotgun in the face, where he's now an android, and it was a lot of filler and a lot of garbage to get to this thing where they killed Data by basically pulling the four USB things out of a computer. That's how they killed Data. Could you put him back in? I don't know. Maybe he's still alive. They showed him like getting older and older as they kept pulling it out. It's very weird. I'm not sure how that translates, because I mean, if you start thinking about that, it's like, why wouldn't it be more like the Hal thing where he just go Daisy or something like that? But instead he got older. I guess it's sort of a representation, but I think he would just disappear. But I know I'm rambling a bit here. But as far as making the show better, well, one, I don't know that you can make it better, but I do know some of the big missteps that they should not have done. One is the Federation should not be a bunch of racist xenophobes. That's a number one. You cannot turn the Federation into that, because the whole point, after 200 years of, by the time they got to the 23rd century, when Kirk's time, we had mostly gotten past that. Yeah, you'd have your one-off person, but the ideals of the Federation always reasserted themselves. You may have a bad admiral, you may have something like that, but they always reasserted themselves, and they always worked. They always realized what they were doing wrong. Even the undiscovered country, where you had a cabal of some people who couldn't get past how bad the Klingons were, but it was not the entire Federation. That they were trying to make peace. They were trying to do the right thing, and some people were working against them. But now the Federation is just all fine with being racist xenophobes, and all of a sudden they're scared. They're a bunch of technological Luddites who can't handle synths anymore. Like, they haven't had computers go nuts. I mean, every other episode of the original Star Trek was Kirk talking a crazy lunatic computer into committing suicide. So there was no reason for this for the Federation to do this. So you cannot make the Federation like that. Now, I don't think it was a bad idea to make the I don't think it was a bad idea to make the synths scared, but they should have been part of the Federation. The Federation should have always been protecting them, which they did at the end. And I appreciated that one moment with Riker on the bridge facing down the right. It felt like for a brief second of Star Trek, but I know it was a lie. It was just something. It was just a member berry. But at least, they kind of came around, but it took them 15 years. But they should have been protected all along. And they shouldn't have been, somebody should have figured out, hey, the Romulans did this early on. The Romulans made the synths go nuts, which caused the synth ban, which then later on we had at the same time the Romulans were having the problems with the supernova from Star Trek, which that's bizarre in and of itself, but fine. They're trying to give them a new home. And the Romulans do what Romulans do. And so the Cold War is still going. They've just gone to another planet. They're not on some dirt planet acting like refugees from Syria or something, or from some dirt poor African country, or Haiti, or South America or something. They should not be treated like that, because they still have their starships, and they still have their government. They still have all that. So why are they're the Romulan Empire. They had plenty of planets. So they just go to another planet and they reestablish there, and they're even worse because they've lost their home planet. And now, in a time of great crisis, and we're seeing this now, that the Romulans could have been a lot more, we're really locking down now. We were dicks before, but you ain't seen nothing yet. And in that chaos and in that authoritarian regime, which is usually authoritarian regimes are usually pretty incompetent, let's face it. They can get things done quickly, strategically over a long period of time. They're terrible. So then they move on, and this I forget what they're called. This weird. It's not the Tal Shiar, but it's some other name of these weird women who are all freaked out about synths. They're the ones that are working and getting power within the Romulan Empire, and working towards fighting and getting rid of the last of the synths, and finding their homeworld that the Federation is maybe keeping secret and trying to help. And Picard then maybe finds out about something from his Romulan contacts when he helped them, and then they turned on him. And that's why maybe he was framed by the Romulans, and that's why he had to leave Starfleet, and they didn't believe him, and now they believe him. That would make more sense, because then the Federation wouldn't look like a bunch of... They're trying to make the Federation look like America, and America is bad. That's what they're trying to do. And so they did all this, but then they had the Federation be good at the end, and then the Romulans be bad. So they kept switching things around back and forth, and you didn't know who to root for or what to do. If they just made the Romulans bad from the beginning, they've always been bad. I don't know what the problem is there. Then we could have had something maybe. And I've gone over some of the other stuff. I mean, nuking 7 of 9's character, I don't see any way to fix that other than just don't put her in there. There was no reason for the Borg to be in there other than, Picard, he has a big thing with the Borg, right? Yeah, but the Borg were immaterial to the entire story other than, hey, look at this cool Borg cube, and look, we got Hugh back. There was no reason, there was no story reason for the Borg to be in there, so don't put them in there at all. Make the show maybe about 5 or 6 episodes, because that's all it needed to be. And quite frankly, you should have brought back the entire crew, or at least more of them. So they're going to do another one. I don't know. I mean, Picard's a robot now, so I don't know what. I mean, he doesn't have super strength. He doesn't have. He's just going to age normally like he would in his own body. So why put him in a robot? Why do that? Why not? The Synths had great knowledge that they had kept or discovered on this planet or something, and they knew how to fix his little mind thing, and then he was healed. Why didn't they just do that? You could have still said, in order to do this, we got to screw around with his brain, so we're going to transfer him into this place where Data is, and then transfer him back into his body, and he'll be all healed, and we'll take care of it. But putting him in an android body, like I said, I think that the only reason they did that was I think there's some weird trans message going on here. It's not, and I only say this because I listen to what the writers are telling us, which is we want to do this to you guys. We don't like you. We don't like your fan. We don't like the fans of Star Trek. We don't like Star Trek, and we're going to make it into our weird cult mindset. And that's what they did. So that's my thoughts. That's my half-hour rambling on Picard. So I appreciate you listening. I wanted to actually have something to talk about this time. And I'm going to go through the chats here. Aldo, haven't seen it, but it sounds so bad. It's good. No, it's totally bad. I could use a celery stick or two in the vase. This is my giant cup of water. And I swear that's what's in it. Why can't I buy a super chat? Kevin, I don't have that ability yet. I'm going to work on getting through Streamlabs, and hopefully we can do something, but I appreciate it. But right now, this is coming to you completely for free. Kevin says, I will identify as a 21-year-old Brad Pitt. There's worse things to identify as. I'd go for that. The explanation to your complaints is that Picard is hot garbage and Kurtzman is incompetent. Yeah, it is. It's terrible. Kurtzman, in my opinion, knows how to take imagery from other better things and stick it into your movie without context, string it together with the barest of plots, and then from that, create a really cool trailer that fools you into thinking you're going to be seeing a decent movie. But you're not. You're seeing a 2-hour trailer, or in Picard's thing, basically a 6-hour trailer, where it's like, oh, there's Riker. Oh, there's a Borg cube. Oh, there's 7 and 9. That's it. Precisely, Brad. I'm not sure what that was. You're supposed to be rooting against the fans. Yeah, Trekkies are bad, according to Kurtzman and CBS. That's absolutely the truth. It is that they don't like us. They don't like Star Trek. They don't like white. They don't like. I mean, we know that white males can be shit on all over the place. Straight white males, anyway. So it's they got this weird progressive stack thing going on. And I think they wanted to turn it into something that it wasn't. And quite frankly, Patrick Stewart is on board with all this garbage too. So I don't give him a pass. I miss Rick Berman. He was a young Spielberg compared to Kurtzman. Yeah, I used to complain a little bit about Berman and how I thought he drove Star Trek in the ground. But like I watched Enterprise recently, and it is Citizen Kane compared to this shit. It is. I mean, it's not a perfect show, but it is light years better than this garbage. It is so bad. Picard is so bad, and I don't have any. I was hoping that maybe it would come up to something, even though they had all these ridiculous setups, and then they would come up to something. Instead, it just got worse and worse and worse. I don't understand the idea of actively, intentionally trying to piss off fans. It's a cult mentality. And honestly, I grew up in the 80s, and Christians, like the far right Christians, who were protesting everything and saying everything was terrible and everything was horrible, and a lot of times they didn't read what they were doing and that kind of thing. They were just as bad. The difference is that the Hollywood and types and comics and comedians and all that, they were the ones pushing against that. The problem is that those are the cultists now. They have the exact same religious weirdo mentality. They don't listen to anything outside of their bubble. Just like back then, they didn't listen to anything outside their Bible. And the Bible. I think I'm onto something. They so I really don't think that they. I think that they are just they had to replace religion with something. And now that they're in control of the media and they're in control of all this stuff, they're just pushing this weirder and weirder crap onto us, and it doesn't make any sense. By the way, excellent Tron disc on the control panel back there. Finally, Arcanaut gets some love. You are welcome. That is Pops and Iron Squid, I think. They put this together for me. We've got a Maltese Falcon. We got the idol from Indiana Jones. We got the disc. We're going to be kind of adding some more to it, but I think it came out pretty nice. That's gin. That didn't look like water. It is. I have one of these. I have one of these because it lasts for a long time, and you can just squirt some in the cup, and gives you a little bit of flavor. One time I filled it with, I went to the water fountain and I had just a little bit in the bottom, just like I did now. And I started filling in the water fountain. And the lady, she didn't know that I put that in there. And she just sees it coming up. She's like, how'd you do that? That's like, some people just are easily led by what they see. So I'm going to pause this for a minute. And I will be back in just 3 to 5 minutes or so, or less, just to get myself a little bit of water. And if you guys hang in there, I'll be right back. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of the news of the day. Um, Reeves' interview reveals more of the Batman. Let me put this in front of me so I'm looking at you guys. Every single time Matt Reeves' tweets or his interview, he seems to reveal more of the Batman, and we don't mind at all. He's been at it again. This time, the director was talking to Nerdist about the psychology of the character, where he thinks that we could take things that we haven't seen before. We know this won't be yet another origin story, but it will be when he was quite new to his time in the mask and cowl. I think that might be. Oh, by the way, I did have Skype down just now. I brought it back up, so I am back online, just so you know. It's not even like that's an approach I would take. It's like some kind of idea of wouldn't it be great. He describes it as humanness with his character grounded, realistic, emotionally, and psychologically. Let's hope so. I can only stand where the camera goes, how to talk about the story, and how to write the story, how to talk to the actors. If I understand emotionally what I have to do, otherwise I'd be lost. I wanted to not do an origin tale, but a tale that would still acknowledge his origins and that it formed who he is. Like this guy, he's majorly struggling and how he's trying to rise above that struggle. That doesn't mean he's fully understands, you know. It's the whole idea of a shadow self and what's driving you and how much of that you can incorporate, how much of that you're doing that you're unaware of. So there's no restart date. I know that it's down right now. That sounds interesting. I don't feel like that's something that hasn't been discussed in one form or another. It's like, well, they talked about that in Nolan's. It's like the mask is your real self. Let's see. There's something that feels very psychological, very emotional about, and it felt like there was a way of exploring that along with the corruption in this place, Gotham. That feels very current. I think it always does. There's almost no time when you can't do a story about corruption. Today, it still seems incredibly resonant, maybe from my perspective, maybe more so than any other time. Is it? Maybe in your industry. I felt like, well, what I'd love to do is get a version of this Batman character where he's not yet fully formed, where there's just something to do in this context with who that guy would be in this world today and to ground him in all those broken ways. Because at the end of the day, this guy is doing all this to deal with the trauma of his past. Yeah, okay. We'll see. I don't know that I agree that isn't something we haven't heard before. Alternate Endgame Black Widow scene. Any of you guys seen this? I'll see if I can play it. If you're not aware, basically it's when Thanos actually comes to the Soul Stone planet. And he tries to, I guess they have a battle. Oh, right in the baby maker. Oh, right in the boob. Don't be messing up Scarjo, man. She's still good looking. One thing I wish they would ever have done is maybe just said that, yeah, she's an amazing fighter and all that, but that her time in whatever the Black Widow training was something that gave her above average strength. Maybe not on the level of Captain America, but more so than most 90-pound women. That's all I need. Just something like that. And then I can buy the rest of it because I think she sells it really well otherwise. But I have trouble with that one part of it. Oh, no. No. Everybody cry now. Let's see. Oh, here we go. He likes to add me to Skype. Okay, sorry about that. There you go, Arcanaut. Dark Busey. Okay, got you guys. So, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I I I think it's more. Um, well, let's see. He's chatting. This call. So you're trying to call me. I apologize. Give me half a second here and let me see if I can get this figured out. It's not coming up in my noise isn't coming up. I don't know why. It's not ringing me. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get this working. Can you hear me? Hello. Whoop, wait a minute. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yep, I can see you just fine too. So welcome to the stream. Yes. Turn off the radio, please. Yes. I'm doing all right. Yourself? I understand. Well, let me transition you, and there you are. Okay, everyone. This is Arcanaut, right? All right. Welcome. So you listened to my rant on Picard. No, it's no good at all. So they're saying they can't hear you. Give me a second here. Let me see. Okay, speak. It appears the desktop audio is incorrect. Let me figure this out. I'm still trying to understand these things, and sometimes I don't get it all correct. Okay, go ahead and speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Let's see if they say so in the chat. I believe we're both... nothing you're saying is important.
That is correct. Nothing I'm saying is important.
It's quite all right. Let me turn on this here. All right, so I got you live. Let's see if I hear you live.
All right, can you hear me, Pops?
I had this working before. Good. Pop says it's good.
I think so. I saw that before I actually asked if you could hear me. So
Yeah. So I'm getting it to record anything that's on here, and then my wonderful giant microphone here. So hopefully we're in good shape.
So I know you can hear me, and oh, there we go. Pops can hear us. So
Pops can hear us.
Well, me in particular. So I heard you mention Darth Busey's name. Is he going to call in?
Let me check. I've this is all me trying to figure things out as quickly as I can.
No pressure.
So much pressure. Well, no, I just added him, so he should be fine. So let me undo that. Just get your. There we go. So, it's almost like I know what I'm doing.
Almost. Not quite yet.
Not quite, but I'm getting better at this.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Well, at least I had something to talk about this time instead of just kind of puddling through trying to figure out what somebody was going to post.
Yes, Picard. Even though I haven't actually invested any time in the show itself, I'm still disappointed. I would much prefer to hear that people would say, well, it's not perfect, but I think they made a earnest effort. Because that's part of the problem for me, is that they don't seem to be making a real effort to do these shows. I mean, it's because as you describe the plot, and as I've heard it from other YouTubers, Nerdrotic, people at Midnight's Edge, etc., it's like it doesn't seem like they're even trying to make a good story. They're just throwing in stuff they've seen, maybe trying to connect it, going back and forth, and if they can say something about how Orange Man is bad, that's their show. And it's like, did you watch The Next Generation? Did you watch the original series? Did you watch the original movies?
No, they clearly didn't. They clearly didn't. They looked at this thing and they went, well, here's a product, and here's things that people remember about the product. And so we're going to put these things in there, and we're going to string them all together, and when we put together a trailer, everybody will get really excited because they'll see things that they remember. And we'll figure out the story as we go along. And they didn't get consistent from one moment to the next about who was good, who was bad, who was, I mean, 1 minute are the Romulans bad or are they good? I don't know. And then while we're at it, we're going to put some of our social justice cultist bullshit stuff in there because these white males need to learn who's really right around here. And I don't want to hear and then they call us toxic, right? Toxic fandom. It's like, well, even if you took all the political stuff out of there, you still did a really bad job of putting together an actual show.
Yeah, that's definitely the impression I've gotten. And then there's stuff like the Picard press conference where it's established in the first season that real television was a thing that's kind of the past, and then they basically have Federation Fox News, which is itself is nuts. And then the Romulan with the sword that looks like a
Romulan Legolas.
Yes, there's nothing I've seen about that show that makes me want to devote a single minute of time to watching it.
I wouldn't, and I want to. I hope. I mean, I've heard that. Well, I mean, I assume you said you listen to Midnight's Edge, and so do I.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I'm hoping that, from what I've heard, that some of these guys are going to be outed or ousted, and
outed.
Yeah, outed. Outed is what?
Yeah, I think they've already outed themselves.
Yeah. I
Well,
don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that there are people who do not like the fandom, who do not care about the IP. They just see this as an opportunity to do things that they want to do, or burnish their resumes. But they're not trying to turn a good product. I mean, yeah, Wrath of Khan is such an excellent example of going back into the original source material, mining it for something, and doing something that is both a logical extension of the original story and yet doing something new and interesting with it that makes for a compelling movie that appealed to non-fans and fans alike. I mean, there were fans of Wrath of Khan who had not seen Star Trek the Motion Picture, who never really watched the original series. So you can do it. It is possible. But they don't seem to have any interest in it.
Well, I would say that, Wrath of Khan was interesting because Roddenberry hated it. And you say, well, he's the guy that made the show. He should know. But there are times where, clearly the people who made Wrath of Khan, like, from what I understand, who's the guy that directed it? Oh God, what's his name?
Oh Lord, I don't. I should. Nicholas Meyer.
Nick Meyer. Thank you,
yeah,
Nick Meyer.
Yeah.
Hell, getting old. Nick Meyer didn't know anything about Star Trek really when he got in there, and he said, "Okay, let's give me all the episodes." This is obviously before Next Gen and everything. And he sat down and he watched the entire series. I'm like, okay. It wasn't a guy who came in and said, I don't like Star Trek, I don't know Star Trek, I'm going to make what I want, and do a cursory glance. Like, he studied the shit out of Star Trek. Found Khan episode, obviously, Space Seed. But he seemed to really get the characters by the time, I'm guessing by the time he was done. Because what they came up with, as far as what I would see as a natural progression of Kirk and Spock and Bones as they got older, as characters, felt extraordinarily natural to me. And Kirk, feeling old and having a son, but that he didn't really have much involvement, if any involvement with, because he was, Kirk. All of it felt like this is right in line with what I would see with these characters. But then you get to things like Last Jedi or Picard, and it's like they've taken these characters and turned them into something that they wouldn't. It doesn't feel natural at all. It feels forced. It feels illogical. This Picard doesn't feel anything like what I saw in. I saw this a little bit in Nemesis when the French reserve diplomatic Picard went redneck off-roading. So, that's kind of the thing that it started happening even then. But this idea of taking characters and shoehorning them into your weird cultist mentality because you want to make this thing to basically stick it to what you call toxic fans. I don't understand it. I don't understand it can't be money because it's losing money.
No, I don't understand why you would even say that. Hey, I want to do something that pisses off the fans. I want to do something that offends the audience because at least then I'm not boring them. There's lots of ways to not bore your audience. There's lots of things you can do to make a good story, and you even inject your personal politics. The original series was political in many cases, or many episodes where that's the case, but they could do it without inverting the characters, without ignoring the canon, without just randomly switching sides. Okay, these are the bad guys. Okay, now these are the good guys. Okay, now these are the bad guys. There's so many ways you could, which is why I think a lot of times the woke marketing and the supposed wokeness is just an excuse for bad writing. There's plenty of ways to put strong female characters, to have political issues about immigration or whatever covered in your in the work you're doing in the writing without completely changing the characters or entirely saying, okay, Picard, he's this strong character, he's the captain, he's a leader. Now he's a weak, doddering old man who has to follow the girls around, who aren't even really girls because apparently they're robots that are based on data. But who cares? It doesn't matter. We're just writing this, and there are people involved. And Shaban has done a lot of good stuff, so the guy can write, but when it comes to doing Star Trek, it's just like okay, whatever.
Well, I know. So was Shaban? Was he brought in later, or was he the one kicked out early? I can't remember.
I believe actually both things happened, if I'm not mistaken. That
Did it?
he was brought in later. Well, he was brought in doing creative work and as part of the writers group, and then was made the showrunner. And then apparently most of the decisions he was making as the showrunner were reversed by Kurtzman and Bad Robot because a lot of it has to do apparently with the cost of things. He wanted a lot more stuff from the next generation to show up, particularly visually as visual cues, and that cost money. They had to license that apparently, and so Bad Robot came behind him and said, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. We're not buying that. We're not paying this. Because everything has to be at least 25% different, which is why
That's true.
looks
But-
like it was supposed to."
But I thought now that Viacom rebought CBS though, right?
That's correct.
But I guess the legal mumbo jumbo is still a mess. Or
Yes, it is apparently because apparently everything is being they sold to like rights to produce certain things are sold to Bad Robot. Bad Robot sells back to CBS. But if Bad Robot wants to use stuff from the original series or the next generation in their shows, then they have to pay CBS more money or Paramount or somebody. It's just, it gets very confusing. And I can see why it would be hard to do something creative in that situation.
I'm going to sue myself.
Yes, that's right.
I guess that's I mean I'm sure they'll get that worked out. I know that the lady at Viacom or somebody is trying to. She's not happy with the way Star Trek is going right now, so I'm hoping that maybe cooler minds will prevail over there. Because it is a great property that is getting ruined, just like Star Wars is getting ruined, and I don't know how. I mean, I don't see any way to fix Picard. I really don't, other than Q comes in and says, that was all bullshit." That's the only thing I could think of that would work. But it's really, yeah. I mean, there's not much more I can say about him. I mean, I've gone through it. I wanted to do a well produced video like I did with Last Jedi, and I just didn't have the initiative or the drive to do it. I just didn't have the passion to do it because it just took a lot out of me as far as my give a shit for Star Trek. Just like for Star Wars. Star Wars has always been my favorite. The original Star Wars trilogy has always been more than just a set of movies to me. It's been like a place that I would go, And the prequels didn't ruin that for me. As bad as the prequels were, I don't felt like they ruined that for me. This did. The sequels did. And that I find almost unforgivable.
Well, you can't help losing interest as a fan. You can't. It's just, even if you don't want to, my interest in Star Wars has gone way down to the point where, I could watch the originals, but why? I mean, it's not intentional. It's not something that I want. It's just after having gone through it all, it's like, okay, I need to find different things to be interested in now.
That is absolutely true. It's like, why should I care anymore? Because I'm gonna make myself a little bigger here. There we go. So you don't look like you're talking to a Lilliputian.
I am over you.
You remind me of the Apple, the old when Steve Jobs had the Apple seminar. I think it was Apple, whatever they call it, Apple World, and it was the first time he decided to work again with Bill Gates, and Bill Gates came over a screen and just loomed like Big Brother over Steve Jobs, like, "Hi, I'm here to save you." Well, I appreciate you coming on. I like your. By the way, big fan of the Flash Gordon. I hope they never reboot that at this point.
Yeah, I would not want to see that. I like, homages or references like Ted, where you had Sam Jones come back and they were riding on a Hawkman rocket cycle. That was pretty cool. But I don't want to see him trying to reboot. I don't want to see him trying to do Flash Gordon again.
No. Well, I mean, it could be done, and you could do it,
It
a
could
completely
be.
different way. But I just don't. I don't trust any of our current betters at Hollywood to do it in a way that wouldn't just piss everybody off.
Yeah, that is exactly it. And I'm not confident that they've learned any lessons yet, or that I guess the pipeline of people who are coming up who to produce these shows, to write them. There are good people out there, but I don't know how many of them really want to even try to touch existing IP. Because even if you had like really talented writers for Star Trek who really wanted to honor it, or Star Wars, I feel like a lot of them would be just like, I've heard the stories. I don't want to. I don't want to fight that fight. I don't want to have Kathleen Kennedy or Bob Iger or the legal department at CBS to have to vet all my scripts, and so you're going to have a harder and harder time of getting good quality work with the existing IPs, and it's going to be the Expanse is going to be where you're going to see that kind of things. Where you're going to see interesting things that you actually want to watch that don't feel like they're condescending to the fans.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I'll tell you, I did watch mostly because I was listening to people like Phil Mento and some of them, and I did see Sonic. Um, just yesterday or the day before, it felt like an old school. It felt like a movie, and
Yeah.
you go, okay, well, for one, it's a video game movie, so you figure it's gonna suck just because of that. But instead, they made a really decent. I mean, nothing earth shaking or anything, but
Mhm.
like Sonic is lonely. He's got this power, and he's sent to Earth as a kid through and the rings are teleporters that they're portals to take you wherever you think about. So he ends up on Earth where he hides, and he's really lonely, and he kind of spies on people in this small town that's next to him, just because he wants to be a part of life, but he can't be because he's afraid that when he gets too close to people, he'll hurt them, because that's what happened to his owl mother or whatever. And things happen, and he ends up with James Marsden's character, who is wanting to move to San Francisco because he feels like nothing happens in a small town. He wants to help people, and now he's got somebody to help. And they have a road trip, and then Sonic learns, that being with people doesn't mean you have to hurt them, and you don't have to leave. And people learn that, he's not something to be scared. And James Martin, and it's like motivation, character begets plot, begets more plot. It's a climax. Everything makes sense. The arcs happen. Holy crap! It's like a real movie.
Yeah, it's structured like a movie,
Yeah.
and it's built around the story. The story doesn't have to be earth-shattering if it's actually just built like a movie where you have characters. There's a character arc, maybe multiple character arcs, where there's a plot that makes some kind of sense, where it's structured a way that you can follow what's going on. Kind of to bring it back around to Picard, where you talk about how the Romulans are the bad guys. Now they're the good guys. So does that make the Federation right when they didn't want to rescue? That whole thing where they keep going back and forth, it's hard to follow as an audience member. What's going on? Who am I supposed to root for? And why are they doing this? And then if it's the truth that they are the bad guys, then, well, does that mean these other things were true then? And often the shows don't go back and really explain any of that. They just suddenly change it. This guy's suddenly a bad guy. Well, does it mean this, this, this? It's supposed to be where when there's a twist, there's often a kind of explanation or a way in which all the previous parts fall into place. And then you go, oh, I see what he was doing there. And if it's not obvious, then they explain why the bad guy did these other things that were supposed to be good or why the good guy did these things that were supposed to be bad. Now it's just kind of like, yeah, well, I think it's good now. I think they're bad now. Whatever.
So with Sonic, you do have a bit of a blank slate.
Yes.
If you're going to make a movie out of it. I think that people, I mean, I've played very little of Sonic, and I don't know that much about it. But it's basically a side-scroller. You run him, you capture rings, you defeat Dr. Robotnik. Yeah. And you have a few little powers to turn into a ball, and that's about it. Yeah. You don't know anything else about him. There was never really any characterization. So you have a nice blank slate to work with. In Picard, you already have 50 plus years of knowing what the Federation is like, what the future is like, what these factions are, how they relate to each other in this universe. The Klingons are what they are, the Romulans are what they are. Their societies are built a certain way, and sure, you could have some change within those societies as you go along. Maybe instigated, like for the Klingons, it made a lot of sense to me that they became our friends by introducing because they were always a Cold War analog for the Russians, right? Mm. Where I think the Romulans were like the Chinese. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the Klingons, have their Chernobyl, and then they cannot afford the things that the warlike society, they have to change because of this externality that made them change. But they never stopped being Klingons.
Yeah.
They just were Klingons within this new paradigm that they had to adjust to. Mm. Where the Romulans in Picard, the Federation in Picard was no longer the Federation. They were MAGA country, at least MAGA country as interpreted by these wacko, Twitterati, fringe, blue checkmark cultists. And the Romulans were whatever they needed them to be at that moment. Do they need them to be a poor refugee camp? Okay. Do you need them to be the bad guys? Okay. Do you need them to be the good guys? Okay. Whatever you need them to be, that's what they are. And it's like, okay, why do I care then? Am I supposed to be rooting to save the synths? The synths want to murder us all. Am I supposed to be rooting against the Romulans for murdering the synths? But they seem to be correct. Oh, but they're kind of dicks about it, I guess. There's no consistency in characterization. There's no consistency in the universe. Maybe Sonic wasn't what people were expecting, but if you didn't know anything about the Sonic universe, you had no trouble following along with what they established. And while it had things that were in the game, you didn't have to have played the game to understand it. But with Star Trek, if you're going to make a continuation of a 7-year series with 4 movies, not to mention all the other ancillary products around it, and of course the original series, the original movies, and blah, 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 you can't just throw in some member berries and then make it whatever you want. That doesn't make a good show, and it clearly didn't make a good show.
Indeed. Oh, and before I go, I just want to mention one of the things I heard in regards to Sonic. Well, there's 2 things to mention about Sonic that I think are important. One of which was when the first trailer came out, and a lot of the fans of Sonic were dismayed about Sonic's appearance and how far he diverged from the video game character. They went back and corrected that. They didn't say, "Oh, you stupid fans, you're going to take our Sonic with teeth and you're going to like it." I think that was kind of important. It's not that, as everyone says, it's not like you always do what every complaining fan on the internet says, but sometimes there can be a dialogue there that can actually improve the products, especially if you are trying to cater to an audience that involves an existing IP. And the other thing is a lot of the fans of Sonic, people who have played the game, are much more interested in Sonic and some of the cartoons and some of the stuff than I ever was. I never read any of the comics. I never watched the cartoons. Said that the movie itself, honored that and kind of teased that they might go even deeper into the already existing Sonic material. I don't know about it. I'm not aware of it. I wouldn't have noticed it, but I do like hearing that the people who are fans of the character and the video game and then some of the ancillary materials made around the video game are very happy with what came out. And then the movie itself did very well. And I just think Hollywood would connect a few dots there.
Well, and take it one step further, right? To me, when I first saw the Sonic trailer, one, I was like, well, he looks weird. And two, this is an Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I have no interest in it.
Yeah.
And then I hear that they change it for the fans. And then it comes out, and I'm hearing on different YouTube channels and that kind of stuff. It's like, wait a minute, this is actually really good. So then they get me to watch it, where I would have had no interest before. So, hey, you make a good product, it makes good money, people go out and watch it. People who wouldn't have normally gone out and watch it, give it a try because now they're, the word of mouth is working. It's like the exact opposite effect of Star Wars.
Yeah. And if you cater, or if you were seen to be at least non-hostile to the fan community, if you do a little cater within reason to the fan community, you get that circulation. I mean, I heard about it with Clownfish TV, it's like the Midnight's Edge folks, the World Class Bullshitters, all of them were talking very positively about that. Whereas I haven't seen the movie yet, I will see it at some point in time. And again, it's because of the fans saying, that these guys did it right. It's not 2001, it's not the original Star Wars, but it's a perfectly good movie, and the people who were doing it understood that it's a good idea not to try to piss off your audience and pay attention to them a little bit. Think about who you're making the movie for.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point to wrap up on. So I've been going for an hour and 20. I think that's plenty long.
Was it enough?
No, I think it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and we need to do this again sometime. I think there's some good back and forth here, and I think I was thinking my next one I was going to go into a little bit more of trying to figure out why the MCU worked and other shared universes, particularly the DCEU, but other shared universes did not. So that'll be a tease for next time.
Yeah, I have opinions about that too. So
I have many.
I really will.
That would be a good one to discuss.
All right, talk to you later, Yoda.
Thank you very much, Arcanaut, and I will talk to you later as well. So, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you all being a part of this. And all you guys that hung on and watched the whole time, thank you very much. We will have another one, hopefully. Well, I don't know, but I will let you know on the posting stream. But I will post this up on the main site. So, thank you very much. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next stream or in the next video.